or as Attorney General. The power of the Supreme Court depends not on armies or police force, it has none, but on its credibility, the trust and confidence of the American people. I ask you to help us uphold that trust by asking this committee to suspend this hearing and come back when we have a full picture with the full sunlight that our chairman is so fond of espousing, so that we can fully and fairly evaluate your nomination. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Once again, I would remind everybody we have half a million documents on this gentleman's record. And also, I'd like to respond to the fact that you can't go 42,000 pages, which I guess is way over the number of documents that we actually received. The majority and minority received documents in two ways. One is a format that can be uploaded to reviewing platforms, and the second is in a standard document file format called PDFs. Given the importance of reviewing documents in a timely manner, my staff reviewed the PDF versions. The production was relatively small, and therefore there was no need to upload them to a reviewing Senate. Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy, you're next. You're next, Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've listened with interest today. I agree so much with what Senator Sass said. I listened today, and it's no wonder to me that so many Americans think that the United States Supreme Court is nothing more than a little Congress, a political body like the United States Senate. Let me try to explain what I'm looking for in a Supreme Court justice. I want a judge. I don't want a politician. Now, I'm not naive. It's true, Senator Booker and I are new to the Senate. We didn't come here when Moses walked the earth. But we're not new to politics. And I understand that human relations are about politics. I get that. But I don't think our founders ever intended for the United States Supreme Court to become a political body. I don't. I'm not looking for an ideologue. I'm not looking for a hater. What I am looking for is somebody who is whip smart, who's intellectually curious, who writes cleanly and crisply, who knows what a semicolon is for, and who is willing to protect the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and understands that the Bill of Rights is not an a la carte menu. Every one of them counts. Let me try to explain further why I agree with so much of what Senator Sass said. This is not a news flash. Our country is divided. We've been divided before. We'll be divided again. We will survive this. But I confess the division in our country today seems to me to be especially sharp. And what concerns me so much about that division is the basis for it. It's not honest disagreement. So much of it is anger. There have been thousands, millions of pages written about the genesis of that anger. We all have opinions. You know what they say about opinions. Here's mine. I think a big part of the anger in America today is because we have too many Americans who aren't sharing in the great wealth of this country. Not economically, not socially, not culturally, and not spiritually. And those Americans believe that the American dream has become the American game, and that game is fixed. Let me give you one example why I say that. I don't hear it so much today. I'm biased, but I happen to think the Tax Cuts and Jobs Bill Act worked. But when I ran 2 years ago, I would hear it every single day. People would stop me and they would say, Kennedy, you know what's wrong with us economically? They would tell me, I look around, Kennedy, and I see too many undeserving people. I emphasize undeserving. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. They would tell me, Kennedy, I look around and I see too many undeserving people at the top getting bailouts. And I see too many undeserving people at the bottom getting handouts. And I'm here just a working smuck in the middle, stuck in the middle, and I can't pay the freight anymore because my health insurance has gone up and my kids' tuition has gone up and my taxes have gone up. But I tell you what hasn't gone up, my income. Now, I happen to think we're doing better in that regard, but we've still got to work a long way to go. But here's the point. Who's supposed to fix that for the American people? It's us. It's the United States Congress. It's not the United States Supreme Court that's supposed to fix this country culturally, economically, socially, spiritually. And that's why I say I agree with so much of what Senator Sass said. It's almost become cliche, but the role of a judge is, or at least should be, to say what the law is, not what the law ought to be. Now, it's become cliche, but cliches become cliches because they're true. Judges are not put there to try to bypass the ballot. Courts should not try to fix problems that are within the province of the United States Congress, even if the United States Congress doesn't have the courage to address those problems. Our courts were not meant to decide these kind of issues. I'm not naive. I know that judges aren't robots. We can't replace you and shouldn't try to replace you with a software program based on artificial intelligence. You have discretion. We're going to talk about that if we ever get to the questioning part of this exercise. But I want to say it again. I understand why, listening today, that so many Americans believe that the law, which I think all of us revere, has become politics just pursued in another way. It's not the way it's supposed to be, Judge. That's not what I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to end. I've still got plenty of time left. I think I have 2 hours allotted, Mr. Chairman. Somebody talked about, said they'd seen this movie before. I commented to my friend Senator Tillis, this thing's as long as a movie. These are the words of Justice Curtis. In 1857, when he dissented in the Dred Scott case. When a strict interpretation of the Constitution, according to the fixed rules which govern the interpretation of laws, is abandoned, and the theoretical opinions of individuals are allowed to control its meaning, we have no longer a Constitution. We're under the government of individual men, who for the time being have power to declare what the Constitution is, according to their own views of what it ought to mean. That's not the rule of law. Justice Scalia put it another way, and I truly will end with that. He said the American people love democracy, and the American people are not fools. The people know their value judgments are quite as good as those taught in any law school, maybe better. Value judgments, after all, should be voted on, not dictated. That's what I'm looking for, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Kavanaugh and your family, welcome. Mr. Chairman, earlier on today, I pointed to an op-ed that had been written by two former White House staff secretaries, John Podesta and Todd Stern, entitled, "Staff Secretaries Aren't Traffic Cops. Stop Treating Kavanaugh Like He Was One." And I note in their op-ed what they said. I will quote part of it. That they said that when they handled the job for President Bill Clinton in much the same way that staff secretaries did for President George H.W. Bush, we wrote concise cover memos for every decision memo that went to the president. We summarized the underlying memo, identified the core decision points and options, and conveyed the views of key senior staff members from whom we had sought comment. We wrote hundreds of these memos. It is no wonder that Judge Kavanaugh has deemed his time as White House staff secretary so important to his performance as a judge. But unfortunately, as we have said many times already, we don't have any of these documents during Judge Kavanaugh's time as staff secretary. Dana Sabraw, Michael Bilson, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Colleen Kolar Cotelli, Naomi Reese Buchwald, John Bates, Derek Gahala Watson. These are the names of some of the federal judges across this country who have vindicated my faith in the rule of law over the last year and a half. These are the women and men appointed by Republican and Democratic presidents who ordered the government to reunite parents with their children ripped from their arms at the border, who rejected attempts to deny federal funds to cities refusing to be drawn into the war against immigrants, who stopped executive orders aimed at kneecapping public sector unions, who stopped the implementation of an ugly ban on transgender Americans serving in our military, who ruled that public officials cannot block citizens from their Twitter feeds, and who stopped the government from banning Muslims from entering the United States. These judges stood firm in defense of the Constitution, the American values it expresses, and the system of checks and balances it enshrines. At this moment of peril for our democracy, it is these judges and others like them who have pushed back against the efforts of a president eager to wield unlimited and unchecked power. In normal times, we would be here today to determine the fitness of a nominee to the Supreme Court of the United States, chosen for his or her legal talent and reputation for fairness. But these are not normal times. Instead, we are here to decide whether or not to rubber stamp Donald Trump's choice of a pre-selected political ideologue nominated precisely because he believes a sitting president should be shielded from civil lawsuits, criminal investigation, and prosecution, no matter the facts. Let's not forget, during his campaign, Donald Trump needed to shore up his support from the Republican base, who questioned whether he was sufficiently conservative. To help, he turned to the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation to build a pre-approved list of names and promised to pick from among them when selecting nominees for the Supreme Court. These groups are long-standing right-wing organizations that advocate for conservative causes and legal positions. The Heritage Foundation focuses on developing policy to, among other things, oppose climate change, repeal the Affordable Care Act, and reduce regulations for big businesses. The Federalist Society focuses on changing the American legal system to align with an ultra-conservative interpretation of the Constitution, including the overturning of Roe v. Wade. When given the opportunity to nominate a new Supreme Court justice, Donald Trump did exactly as he promised. He did not select someone who demonstrates independence and fidelity to the rule of law. Instead, Donald Trump selected a pre-approved name